The Swamp Thing, issue 10, Ram V writing with Mike Perkins on the art. Uh, so, big stuff.
Still season finale, essentially.
Yeah.
Kind of. Like, I think they always expected to get more.
I hope that they were writing to get more, because if this was the last issue, I'd have been very upset.
Yeah,
I think by the time he wrote this issue, because we know Ramby writes his issues quite late, that he knew he was getting more by this issue. But I still think there's a lot of elements in this that, a little tweak here or there, and this does work as the ending of your season.
Yeah, no, I don't say it doesn't work. But it poses a lot more questions here, that this wasn't very fulfilling if this was meant to be a finale. And knowing that we have more is nice, but there's still a lot to unpack with Levi and Jacob and this company and stuff. So
I don't think this does feel like a finale. Mid-season finale, maybe a more apt way of putting it for me, where it still feels like the actual main plot beats are all still there to be done. It's just that there is a nice sense of like reflection upon what's come so far. I like this show a lot, though. I feel like I'm having to sound negative because I'm having to dispute what Cara just said, but I actually really like this issue. I just don't agree that it feels like a finale. But it does a good job of kind of reestablishing his relationship with his brother. Talks about how the trees and the green have witnessed all of these happy moments and memories. And even the angry parts, like them being chopped down, which is one of the panels. Like all of this stuff, and then it transitions to the big fight that we kind of left off the cliffhanger on last issue. What's the guy's name again? I'll keep forgetting the rich guy's name.
It's the Prescott guy, but that's not.
He's not Prescott though. We established this last issue.
Yeah.
He wants to set off his liquid nitrogen. This is his contingency plan to like kill any of these life forms that are in there.
Mr. Pilgrim.
There you go, Pilgrim. And this is just a lot of great fight art and stuff like that. And them debating, and like the idea that Levi feels guilty because he kind of like assisted their local forest being given up, right? That was like his guilt. We got a lot of flashbacks about that. His brother blames him for it. And he tries to protect his brother here. Jacob, right at the end, he tries to like cover him when all this like nitrogen's going off. And they leave thinking he's dead. Jennifer thinks that he's just killed her not boyfriend. They're in a weird place. But and she's like, what, you expect me to just walk away? He's like, well, right now you're not a threat because no one would believe you, but you kind of want me to keep thinking you're not a threat, so maybe just, go live your life. Forget this ever happened. And I really liked all the art here. I think one of my favorite things about the art in this issue is there's so many close-ups of either his face or, as we see in a second, Woodrow, because that's who he's going to meet. That's his backup, because he's lost his specimens, and it's like, okay, now we can do something with him. And a lot of these close-ups with the deep shadows around the eyes and like just the expressions, I think Perkins is legitimately getting better, like before our eyes. I think his facial expressions and the performances he's putting on to the characters is improving with time. I think it's better now than it was at the start of this book, and I think they're better than they ever were in Lois Lane, which I also thought had really good art.
Yeah, but you go back to, we had Perkins on that Green Lantern arc for a little while, right at the end of that book. Even going back to that, we were constantly saying, the faces were the weak point, where whenever things had to be in the light and just kind of reacting, those would tend to be his weakest elements, where, when he was playing with things in the shadows, they were fantastic. But it's gotten to the point where the shadows are still his strength, that is still his natural playground of where stuff looks the best. But it's not as big a discrepancy as it used to be anymore.
No. Of course, Levi gets contacted by the Green. Effectively, he's contacted by a being that is all of the avatars that have came before. So all of the Swamp Things that have existed prior kind of like merged into one. Just like he kind of represents all of the Swamp Things to come. And he basically tells them that, there's still more people to save. There's still hope. The reason why the Green keeps reaching out, because the Green is this kind of just silent watcher, but the fact that they keep creating avatars to interact with the world and intervene means that they don't want to just be watchers. They want to actually help. They want to create balance.
Yeah, they need to protect themselves somehow because mankind's not going to do it on their own. So they need a representative.
Yeah, but it's not just about protecting themselves, though. I think this comes across as a lot more selfless to me, the way it's described here.
That's what I mean too. But like, if they don't have the Avatar to speak up for them, how are they going to do it? Right? Like, and I do like that. I like that the idea that there's always been a Swamp Thing somehow. Like that goes back to this. I don't know if that goes back before the Snyder stuff, but I did like that being brought up, and here that plays at that more, just because you have that creature there on the side too with the tusks.
What was?
Yeah. So
sure.
That was the big thing, the big elemental one that was inside the green in like the middle of this story.
Yeah.
Yeah. That wasn't the tone I was giving you. I was just like, why do I know the name of that creature?
I mean, one, because it's the Wood Wolves. Why would you not know it? And
Right.
two, it says it on that very page.
Yeah.
I know that's what it was referring to.
Well, that's because you don't remember cool things, clearly.
But yeah, anyways. But yeah, because that's what that represented, right? Was the whole elemental nature of things. And that, once as a Swamp Thing, you can kind of control that. That's where you gain your powers from, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, for me, this was more about the idea of hope and the idea that like the trees witness so many good people. As much as they witness a lot of bad people and they witness a lot of bad things, they see a lot of good people too, and they see a lot of people they can believe in. And it's this Avatar says this is why they chose you, is because you have this ability to hope, this hope that drives us all, that drives us to act. Like you have that within you. I really like the touch on the art here where there's like a panel. It's like the roots underground. But it's like two hands, like like one pulling the other hand up, kind of thing. But it's like the roots are doing that. Really nice touch. But Swamp Thing does kind of like break out of the ice and wakes up, and he uses like the green reminds him that hey, there's this flower that can create heat, and this is to like help his brother. So he kind of like goes over his brother and like uses this to like thaw him out. So it's like really like
it kind of like gives birth to him almost.
Yeah.
Well, it's like he sort of like consumes him to heat him up. Well, or he already had him like inside him because of the way he shielded him.
Yeah, because he covered him up, right? And then here he uses the heat to reanimate. But I also like how skeletal the Swamp Thing looks when it rises out of the rubble.
There's not that much green matter for it to draw on around, so it's just like the bare minimum.
Right, and it's very like cocoon-like, and so when it does, like you said, like it almost gives birth to Jacob here.
Yeah, but it's a really like the idea of like finding a way to heat up his brother, even though his brother is like the villain in a lot of ways. Is this really sort of biblical kind of like just big moment? It's done without almost any words throughout over these pages. And like, he's really weak after it. He kind of slumps to the ground afterwards. They're both like clearly drained by this what's happened to them. So really effective. And then it like cuts to Woodrow doing his work, and it turns out that this is actually tying into that first story we got, the desert avatar that we met. At least that's what one of them suspects it is. Like back in the first couple of issues, like that's the specimen they've got now, and this is what Woodrow's working on.
Really neat tying it back to that first, first issue, and I think it was the first two issues, right? But
first two issues.
Really neat tying it back to that first story.
Yeah, and there was obviously a lot of backstory in those two issues, but this idea there's other things other than, and we've already known for a while that there's the red and there's the rot, but the idea that there's more like things like that maybe could be tapped
more
into.
Ideas.
I think more ideas at smaller scale, in the sense that the green, the red, and the rot are all encompassing, right? Yeah. But this is desert. It's smaller. It's more specific than just those big generic archetypes of life.
Cool. And I like here, they says that through the technology Prescott's developed, we might find we're reaching into a completely different idea. So what does that mean when you start mixing the technology with these primal forces?
I feel like he's going to make something nasty that Swamp Thing is going to have to fight.
Kind of reminds me of American Gods a little bit. That story, the idea of the ancient mythologies meeting the new world technology and kind of what happens. Right. It kind of feels like there's a lot of that going on here.
So yeah, final page, because obviously, like, he is so convinced that Swamp Thing's been dealt with And the final page, of course, it's almost at the end. I mean, mild spoilers here, I guess, for the end of a certain movie named The Iron Giant. But this reminded me a lot of the end of The Iron Giant. No?
No, it does. It's just the way that you did. Not to go spoilers, but the Iron Giant.
I don't think it's spoiling too much. I don't think that ruins the movie for you. But like just the eye like opening at the end here.
It doesn't spoil it as much as every pop culture reference trying to give into a weapon, and that's clearly not the point of that movie.
Oh, well, yeah, I mean, that's a fair point. So it's just, him in the snow waking up, and it's like, so like the Swamp Thing lives, unsurprisingly, but
and it's specifically the idea that it's hard to kill an idea.
Yes,
It's a big theme.
Which I mean, we're gonna tie it back into the whole bomb being buried underneath London.
Mm-hmm.
That whole thing that all the negativity was feeding it. And
it's funny that this issue brings back the creature from the first 2 issues, and then this idea of an idea ties it back into that 5th issue. So it's kind of interesting that some of those what felt like relatively standalone 2-parters or single issues early on are now thematically being brought back in towards the end of this. And now obviously we get these final 6 issues to go, and we'll see what he does with them. But really good stuff. Can I just point out on not the final page, but the 2-page spread before, the one in the autopsy room with all the purple light, that panel on the top right, I'm like, that's Willem Dafoe.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
Matt agrees. Okay, good.
That sees it. We got there in the end.
Oh dear. Yes, very good. It's a very, very good issue. I look forward to its return in March. Yes, Matt, what are you giving Swamp Thing issue 10?
8.5.
Connor?
I'm going to give it another 9.
Yeah, I'm happy to give this a 9. This was excellent.